Hey guys, so just to follow up from one of the earlier videos, I did actually end up calling my CHP office and asking them if lane splitting is allowed for 2016. There's my CHP office. The funny thing is, in California, it's not necessarily legal or illegal. And so the officer told me that there's a big difference between something being legal and not illegal. You know, if something's legal, there's something in writing that says that whatever that thing is permitted. While something that it's not illegal, it's not written down somewhere saying that it is permitted, but it's also not written somewhere saying that it is not prohibited. So lane splitting in California, there's no law against it or for it. So it's kind of like a gray area the way that he explained it to me. And he says sometimes it really depends on the officer. It's at their discretion if they want to pull someone over. But for the most part, if you're doing it safely, and I guess there's a bunch of requirements that state what, you know, riding a motorcycle is safely, then you'll be okay. He also stated that he preferred it to be no more than 5 miles an hour, which, I mean, if you decrease the speed in which, you know, if you do get hit while lane splitting, you know, obviously, you know, you'll sustain less damage. But I also found this other resource online that says that they permit up to 15 miles an hour. So I'm not sure which one to go with, but if the CHP officer said it, I'm probably going to go with that one, because even if the CHP officer isn't incorrect, he's the one that's going to pull you over, and that takes time out of, you know, your day, my day. And if you have to debate it in court and he shows up, I've never seen it where a CHP officer loses. It's pretty much like when CHP officers show up to court, they always win. Unless there's like some really hard proof to it. But for this, in a case in which something is neither legal or illegal, I really wouldn't risk it. But that's just me. I just wanted to get back to you guys on an earlier video that I did about lane splitting. It's the same video where I rant about traffic for like the first part of the video. So I actually found that there were two studies. The one that I was referring to was actually done a year or two ago, and that one just kind of took a bunch of information from a few sources. I wasn't able to find the original studies on those though. And what it basically said was that in California, where lane splitting is legal, you have motorcyclists or riders, and then you also have non-riders. There was a big discrepancy between non-riders as far as knowing the legality of lane splitting. The majority of them thinking that lane splitting was illegal entirely, while the other part thought that although it is legal, it shouldn't be, simply because they think it's driving simply as waiting in line. And if a motorcycle is allowed to split lanes, they might not cause a hiccup in the line immediately, but that at some point down the road that they would. And you know, if everyone else has to wait in line, what makes motorcyclists so special that they don't have to wait in line? And what this article went on to say was that motorcyclists don't jam up the line any more than a car does, simply because they're not in the line at all. They go in between the line, and then when they need to eventually exit, they just cut over as needed for a short amount of time. thereby not increasing anyone's length on the road. And went on to further say that if about 10% of the population that are car drivers went on to become riders, we could decrease transit times by about 8 minutes each way, I believe. So that was the first study done, and the one that I was referring to, and there's a link for that in the description below. The second article, which is more recent, I believe, done in May 2015, and that link is also down below. I'll label that one as the study, or the second study. And I need to get over. That study was done at Cal Berkeley. So for those of you that don't know, Cal Berkeley is pretty much like one of the top ranked schools in the nation as far as the United States goes. When people say, oh, you know, I went to a school in California, you know, people typically have to ask which one. They say, you know, like UCLA, UC Irvine, UC Davis. But if you say, oh, I went to Cal, that has immediate recognition with Cal Berkeley. So this is a top-notch school we're talking about. And they surveyed somewhere along the line of 7,000 people. And of those 7,000 people, 1,000 of those were involved in lane splitting accidents. So, to clarify, 7,000 motorcycle accidents were observed, and of those 7,000, 1,000 of those were involved in lane splitting accidents. Of those lane splitting accidents, they found that most people who do lane split typically do it during commute hours. So they have a regular, let's say 9-to-5 job. They wear better helmets. They wear better equipment. And all of that encompassed with, because, you know, these are typically more responsible adults, they drive within the safe parameters of lane splitting, which is what the study determined was that anything 20 miles and below is considered to be a safe mile, as far as, you know, driving 20 miles above the surrounding traffic. Anything above that would significantly increase damage to all body parts. Now, you know, this is some of the stuff like increased speed increases the damage done. You know, that has been shown to happen time and time again with not just motorcyclists but automobiles as well. You know, typical fender benders that happen in the range of 20 miles an hour don't cause much damage. But if it happens at 100 miles an hour, oh, you bet that it's going to do some damage. However, that same 25 mile an hour crash, that little fender bender that happens with a bike, it's not the same when done with a motorcycle. And why is that? That's simply because the motorcycle doesn't have all that cushion and all that wiggle room that a car has. You know, there's not as much protection. Now, the study itself has its own limitations in that, yes, it only did survey, you know, 7,000 people, some of them being highway patrol officers. That's why they were able to get the sample up so high. It's hard to get volunteers, you know, to give out this information so readily and keep up with it for a long period of time. So there were a lot of other factors involved. You know, lane splitting itself, right, can be dangerous if done without the proper gear, if done at too high of a speed. All of that can contribute to unsafe lane splitting. But I want to kind of combine the two studies, showing that, you know, it's not just lane splitting that's safe. You know, it's safe if done correctly. But what also it does is it helps out everyone in the immediate area. You have decreased traffic because of lane splitting. So if a motorcycle's not on the road, you're not there to get into an accident. Also, if motorcycles transit time is decreased by that of the same car, you know, person for person, if you were to trade off being in a motorcycle with a car, you know, your travel time would be cut down. And by cutting down your travel time, you're also cutting down the total amount of emissions that are emitted by your vehicle. I'm not saying that, you know, motorcycles put out less emissions than cars. I mean, I'm sure some bikes may very well put out the same amount of emissions as something like, you know, like a better gas-saving car. But if you're on the road for a significantly less time, if all things are equal, if a car and a motorcycle are putting out the same emissions, if you're on the road for a less amount of time, then that is less time that you are putting emissions into the environment. So another added benefit to that. So I look forward to talking to you guys next time. And have a safe and happy new year.